Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today is August 13th, and we're at our weekly Frontends call. Um, Today we have a few items in the agenda. Um, Please feel free to add yourself if you have any items you'd like to discuss. And I am up first. I just wanted to come in here and share 2 points. Well, I'll start off with one maybe we're most familiar with. We have a community call coming up in September 4th. So I've linked the blog post, and please, if you have anything you want to share with the broader Jupyter community, feel welcome to open up the HackMD and sign up to present for the community call. We're having those quarterly, so please feel welcome to join. The other point that I have on there is the Jupyter workshops call for proposal. That is the Jupyter workshops that have previously taken place. They're in-person events. Usually, this time around, they're geared more towards contributors. So we're hoping to gather Jupyter contributors to work on to work together and collaborate in some space. There is some funding allocated for that. The call for proposals is open until September 7th. So the proposal currently requests some information about who's organizing, maybe some preliminary logistics, and also some information about like maybe expenses and things like that. But yeah, if anybody is looking to set something up, please take a look at the blog and also the website. I'll share the link to the blog. It has the website's link, and you can see there maybe a little bit more information about what to expect for the workshops, and what would be included in the proposal. Nick, I see your hand is raised.
Yep.
Yes.
So one thing, and I haven't read the blog post, but one thing that was mentioned on another call where one of the persons that wrote the blog post was saying specifically we're interested because there's going to be some travel issues for people coming to JupyterCon and stuff like that. We're specifically interested in workshops in other parts of the world than the U.S. because this is going to kind of be in the same time frame as JupyterCon. And it wouldn't even be crazy if it lined up with the sprints at JupyterCon. You know, that you don't know who's not going to be able to make it for that. So there are some interesting timing and scheduling and geopolitical things that may color how these are proposed. That is all. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. I can understand that. From my experience and what I've heard in our calls at the community building working group, the only thing that we really kind of discussed was that we were hoping that these are held early in next year, early 2026, at least the first one of these. The exact date would be up to the committee that is hosting or proposing the workshop. But yeah, we're hoping at least the first one can be hosted sometime like before or during February of next year. So I'm sure that if someone's willing to submit a proposal and it does overlap a bit more with JupyterCon, that might be fine. But yeah, we do have a Zulip section for events. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to add your questions there. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I'll share the Zulip link shortly for anyone who's interested. And I think up next on the agenda is, or unless anybody has any other comments for community call or Jupyter workshop. Okay, I think up next is Mike, so I'll hand it over to you, Mike.
Thank you. So first, I just made a pull request in Accession Examples repo and wanted to briefly give a shout out to Kira for a lot of work which went into updating that to the latest template version of extensions and bringing the CI back to green. And it's really great to see that all these extensions are back there, and more people can build extensions using these examples. And the other short mention is that JupyterLab for 4.5 Alpha 2 was released, and I saw that Notebook releases and Candaford releases, and I think also JupyterLite releases for using these new package versions followed, which is amazing. You can test it on Binder. I had a Binder prepared, but I posted the wrong link in the notes, so let me correct this right now. Yeah, so this is the gist. We've linked the Binder. If you would like to test the new features, enhancements, one of those is better synchronization with the light and dark mode. Another is code folding, so we can use the command palette or the menu to fold, unfold sections of the code in the cells or in the file editor, and a number of visual improvements along the way. Some new settings, and just basically have a look at the enhancements made section in the release stack. Also, audio and video extension. So a lot of fun stuff. I think we are slowly getting to the point where we would want to announce a pre-release for wider testing. But yeah, if you are an extension developer or just to use a lot of JupyterLab or Notebook, please do test it. And final short mention from me is that in JupyterLite currently, the images in Markdown cells do not render if the images were not part of the static assets, so if they were not included in the build, which is a bit inconvenient when trying to replicate the exact experience of Notebook or JupyterLab in Lite. So to make it possible to fix that, I'm thinking about tackling this issue with URL resolver or iResolver interface not being extensible just yet. So they are currently using a hard-coded class. If anyone who was looking at the original issue gave it some thought and thinks that a different approach needs to be taken, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope that this will allow us to have a small plugin in JupyterLite which will fix it. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, there's a terrifying thing that one could do, which is, I think, so this we do not presently require the service worker because the service worker did not work in any released version of Firefox with private browsing enabled. With Firefox 140 LTS, whatever the hell the number we're up to, that is no longer the case. So there is no longer a reason that we could not make the service worker required. At that point, files could be redirected directly via the service worker and nothing would have to change. Like nothing at all would have to change because it's a full HTTPS server inside. You know, it man in the middles every single request that comes out of that browser through there. So there is that kind of terrifying option, which is clearly a major breaking change, and would resolve that issue quite handily. There might be other browsers that don't allow service workers, like the Microsoft repackaging of that and Brave and all that other stuff. So maybe we can't say you got to have a service worker. So maybe that's a non-starter. So if nothing else, that would be a great example of implementing iResolver and being able to replace a specific part of it. You know, we don't want to end up having to replace everything, but that would be pretty slick.
Thanks. Yeah, that's an interesting possibility. I wonder if we might want to ultimately do that for other assets, like because when embedding an image, we are hitting this iResolver.resolve URL path because we actually control the renderer. But I think there would be extensions which might be trying to call the slash files anyways, which we do not have a way to intercept. So in these cases, the service worker approach that you mentioned might be the only solution. But maybe we don't need to require it just yet if iResolver works.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's lots of, you know, have not explored fully. Like right now, the way that we do service worker is very handmade. You know, I have not looked at how that could be improved in the future, but you know, you could kind of think of it as an experiment in what that would look like. Now, unfortunately, we moved, you know, the fake web server into the same UI process as the client application, right? Process, whatever the process is. I mean, so it's in the main UI loop, and so when you request things, there could be a future which would break all the beautiful, you know, magic plugin stuff that we did, that moved the entire fake HTTPS server into a service worker, and would actually be kind of awesome. Would have a number of really cool features, but that's even in lab, not just in light. Like that could be a thing that if you do the, you know, if you implement your Lumino application in this specific way, then you get all the benefits of service worker stuff. We figure out how to do plugins to the service worker, all that kind of stuff. And there would be very little customization required in this case. We would just provide different backends. So, but that's I don't know. I'm not convinced. I cannot convince myself yet that is the right play at this time.
So there's no server anymore, right? In Jupyter Lite, it's mostly plugins replacing core lab plugins, except that there is still the WebSocket mocking happening. But otherwise, it's pretty much just a lab with a different set of plugins that are, of course, yeah, all running in the same UI thread.
And that's the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you got two browsers open, then they're two things, and then they have two applications running in the main UI thread that have one service worker, and yada 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 yada. You know, like, so there is still an architectural impedance there. I'm not saying we're wrong. We're just doing what we can here and trying to make it less terrible to build stuff for it. But
for sure,
there is a future to that architecture, right? So then your service worker can own web workers, so your kernels could actually be also shared between two windows. So now you could open this notebook in Jupyter Notebook Lite and be using the same kernel, which is mind-blowing, you know. So yeah, but then there's all these things you just can't do when you're inside of there. I mean, from an architectural purity point of view, that's great. My fake HTTP server should not be touching the DOM, and it should never slow down the DOM. And that might even be a pattern for how we move forward with actual isolation of different extensions. You know, you can register yourself as some kind of UI gubbin or something like that, so you can import React and all that. But if you're in the server, you can't. You know, you're in there. But now that API is much less peril fraught, right? There's There's just a lot of things you can't do. But that's a long-term, like 5.0 kind of thing.
Yeah, for Jupyter 0.6, so the couple of months ago, we spent a lot of time trying to fix issues with the service worker, and the life cycle of the service worker is quite complicated, and it can lead to a lot of frustration. So typical examples were about like accessing the file system, right? So like if you have two light tabs open at the same time, I'm trying to make I don't know, like writing to files. This was leading to issues, and also there's like the order in which you open the tabs, and then the service worker taking control. So it's like it's a very powerful tool, but yeah, it comes at a cost, I think, like complexity of managing it.
Well,
Yeah,
there's some frameworks. Yeah, there's some frameworks out there that do some of that. There's a big old one from Google. I don't even know if it's maintained anymore, but yeah, I'll see if I can drop a link in there. But yeah, if that were to ever happen, there would need to be like a really good plan for how you were going to make that happen. But that gives you other cool things, like once you got a service worker, then you can have the desktop link. I guess they're bringing that back in Firefox or something. It's still full Chrome and all that. So, you know, dude, and I think our caching is kind of broken, and it doesn't actually not request certain things. So you're still getting a lot of extra requests, but you know, one would hope to actually see if I crack this window open and I had it open before, just like that. You know, everything's already in the browser. It's in that good cache. It's just, it can be a challenge. As you say, it is a challenge to manage the life cycle of those things. And they're kind of a privacy nightmare too, but you know, from fingerprinting perspective. Anyhow, this isn't a JupyterLab call. Sorry, everybody.
No worries, Nick. I think that's I think up next we have Jeremy.
yeah, it's not a Jupyter call, but maybe I can still mention the 0.7 pre-releases, which are available now based on the latest Lab and Notebook pre-releases. So there is a new Biodite kernel also ongoing as we speak. And yeah, if you want to try some of the Lab and the Notebook features, then you can use the link I posted in the chat. And in this 0.7, there will also be workspace support and also the basic interrupt that Mike contributed, which is nice. And probably more if we manage to squeeze some. And if you have more ideas, then feel free to jump and also help. But yeah, maybe we can squeeze some kind of PDF export prototype or something that basically does like some basic job at exporting to PDF if possible. But I don't know. Yeah, let's see.
If you give people that, they will not stop complaining about it.
They currently complain because they don't have anything showing up in this export menu. So that's what they complained about.
Give them HTML. Their browser can do PDF. Like, you know, it's that problem. We've been fighting that since Notebook. You know, if you don't have access to WebDriver or whatever things that give you PDF output, you are fighting a unwinnable battle.
There's
Yep. Sorry.
No, I agree with you with respect to the limitations of exporting PDF in the browser. You know, I think there is something which goes beyond like a simple get this DOM element and embed it, I don't know, in an iframe in a new view for printing, or try to convert it to a PDF. And part of this is applying the right styles. So for example, there shouldn't be an active cell when you are exporting. And I think if like there is a draft PR there, if that was merged, maybe it would be easier for others to contribute to this kind of small CSS adjustments and other things, even if ultimately the PDF export will be always lower quality than what you would get from NB Convert.
Well, I mean, but which NB convert, right? We got three. We got Qt.
I meant the browser-based version. What is it? Playwright-based PDF.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have several, right? You know, there's the Qt one. That one doesn't download a browser at runtime. The Puppeteer one does need a browser at runtime, some special magic browser. So anyhow, yeah, I mean, if we got to something, so if we got to something that shipped the NB convert templates and then could run them potentially with -- execute, which would be fire, you know, then all kinds of things happen. Not PDF, right? Like, but you could get to, this is the NB convert HTML, and then you can press print on it, right? And get out, you know, all that stuff and overload things. And that had been proposed to be done with actual NB convert, but there's still a lot of dependencies that aren't going to work because that does fiat Jupyter Jupyter client, which does need ZMQ. And sure, you could build those for WASM, but they wouldn't do anything. And then you'd be trying to do a kernel manager, and that wouldn't work because you don't have a real HTTP socket or anything. If we got those things resolved, yeah, you could, if you provided a Zeus Python or you provided a PyDide kernel or something, we could just delegate that to a kernel. But that would make -- execute a lot harder. If we did it the quote unquote right way with a native JS implementation of NB convert that had access to everything inside of the server, quote unquote server, you know, then you could really be somewhere. And that's the kind of thing, I mean, that could be upstreamed into Lab and Notebook. Why not? You know, like you could just have that and not rely on NB convert for headless generation if you happen to be in a browser, with the added thing of you could be watching it, right? So you could have a live preview of your notebook while you're typing on, or you know, whatever, with your customizations and your branding and all that things. Yeah, that'd be wild. Inside of NB convert, we really don't add that many things. We don't add that many filters beyond the standard Jinja ones. Nunjux is Nunjux. I can't really recommend that. And I would look to a WASM based mini Jinja, which would require some upstream modifications to make it compatible with both. But that would be pretty silly.
Yeah, I think that's it from here then. I don't know if there is anything else on the agenda.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think that's it for the on the record topics. So unless anyone has something last minute to add, we can end the recording and move to the off the record portion. Okay. I'll go ahead and stop the recording in 3, 2, and